Angular's server-side rendering is amazing, but what if you had content that doesn't really change? For example, you could have blog posts, you could have newsletters, you could have, for example, even products that don't change their price too often, and you only want to generate their HTML pages when you're running the Angular build process, rather than using server-side rendering, which could be useless here because every time a user comes to your particular page, you're running a whole rendering cycle, which is costing you server computation and money, of course. Well, today we are looking at how you can use pre-rendering with dynamic routes, for example, product pages, using the dynamic ID using getPrerenderParameters. And there are going to be a lot of tips and tricks, so make sure to watch the video till the end. Hey everyone, my name is Mohammad Esanayas. I'm a Google Acknowledged expert in Angular and author of 3 worldwide published books, including this one, Mastering Angular Signals, which was recently published. And if you know Angular, you know that Angular signals are the key for what is the future of Angular, including zoneless applications, including different APIs. That also includes forms, which are going to have signal-based APIs. So if you want to take your Angular skills to the next level, make sure to check out the book right away, and you can find the link in the description of this video. Having said that, first thing first, make sure to clone the repository that you can find in the description of this video. Make sure to go copy the code, clone this in your machine, and maybe also join these 1300 plus cool folks who are following me and my GitHub projects and are getting inspiration from there. Having said that, you can essentially open the project into your favorite editor. Make sure to do git checkout and then prerender-params-start, so you are at the right branch to continue along with me. Once you do so, make sure to run npm install to install the dependencies of the project, and once you do so, run npm start, so you're running the project on localhost 4200. For those of you who have been following my past tutorials, we have discussed about Angular, CSR versus SSR versus pre-rendering. We have also discussed about hydration in Angular, incremental hydration, and you can find the link of all those videos in the description of this video as well. Now, having said that, right now the application that we have has a hero section. If you scroll down, you have a list of products. You can click add to cart on each product and you see this nice little alert. But what we want to do is we want to pre-render the detailed pages of all these products, and we don't want to use server-side rendering for this, of course, because they won't change, let's assume. And this is going to be the same for newsletters, blog posts, etc. And whenever you want to change that, you just run another build and you have up-to-date content there. Now, to do this, we need to do a couple of things. We need to first create a couple of components, and then we need to set the route and then use the getPrerenderParams method to generate these pages on build time. So we're going to create the components now. So we can simply say ng generate component, and here we're going to create a component inside the components folder, and we are going to name this product-card. Then we are going to create a route as well. So I'm going to say ng generate component, and here I'm going to call this product-details. Now, I've had comments on my videos that said, why do I put these routes at the app folder level, and why don't I create a pages folder and then put everything inside that? Well, feel free to do so. I have a habit of doing this. I don't have any strong argument for doing it the way I do it. I just like it. But you can basically create a pages folder and put them inside. However, I don't do this for the projects that I do for clients, of course, because that would be stupid. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go to the product list component, which essentially has the template for our product card, which is inside this li. So I'm going to actually go ahead and copy this or cut this div, and then I'm going to go to product card and I'm going to paste this right here. So we have the template right here. Now all this needs is a product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something cool from Angular 18.2 called the let directive. I'm going to call this product right here equals, and I'm going to use product as a signal here. Now this doesn't exist, so I'm going to go to my product card TypeScript file, and I'm going to say that in order to show a product card, you need the product as an input. So here I'm going to say product is going to be an input signal, and it's going to be required, so we absolutely need it. And it's going to be of type product, which can be imported from the interfaces folder. So this is going to look just like this. Now you're going to see something funny here, and that is this is going to break because we are saying, hey, product equals product, which doesn't make sense. So we need to rename the symbol. I'm going to right click it, rename it, and I'm going to just call it product item. So now we are saying, hey, take the signal product, and then I'm just using that as product item and then just rendering this just like this. Now we also have to port the add to cart function from list to the card component. So here I'm going to actually cut this, and then I'm going to go here in the card TypeScript file and just go here and then paste it right here. There we go. And the whole component is happy now. Now I'm going to use this component right here. So I can say app-product card. So I'm actually importing it, and then I'm passing the product as the product right here. Great. Now that we have this, we can essentially save this and see if everything works as expected. So I'm going to save this now. And if I open my terminal and look at it, you can see that the build is green. If I go to my browser now, I can refresh and see everything working, but I don't trust my eyes. So I go to the debugger and I see that inside the Angular debugger, we have the app product list component that has the product card right here. And I'm going to also make sure that we have this add to cart working, as you can see right now. We see the alert right here. Now, there was one thing that was bothering me quite a lot, and that was this particular badge element. If I make it too short, you can see that this goes crazy, and I go crazy because I'm a front-end developer. I have my eyes start bleeding. So I don't like this. So I'm going to go back to the code and I'm going to go to product card HTML, and on the badge, we're going to add two nice little classes that would fix it. First, h-full. So we'll let it grow vertically, and then text center as well. So we have the text align centered. Now, when I look at it, I like it. And if I close the debugger, they also look nice in the large view as well. As you can see, super cool. Now let's talk about the product details page. So we already have the component in place. All we need is a route. So I'm going to go to the routes file, which is here, and let's add a new route. I'm going to call it path. We're going to call it products/id, and we missed an O here. And then we can basically load the component just like this. So we are lazily loading the product details component just like this. Now, when we go to the product detail page, which is this route, we will see that it doesn't have anything here. So we can do a couple of things here. First of all, we need to have the product right here. How do we get the product is the question. And so far, we are not really talking about pre-rendering at all. We are just looking at how to make this work on the client side, for example. So what I want to do is, if I go to product/1, I should be able to see the first product right here. So I'm going to go to my code base here. And first of all, I want to say that I want the product right here. Now I already know from my browser that this has this ID as a parameter in the route params. To get that, we quickly go ahead and say we have route equals, we inject the activated route service just like this. So we can snatch the params from there. Secondly, we also need the products service here, because right now our service has the resource which contains the products list. So if I go to services, product.ts, here you can see that we have this HTTP resource called products, which basically fetches our JSON data and then contains the array of this JSON. So if I go to public data JSON, here is the JSON that contains everything from the image to the slug, price, everything that we need. So this product details page, when the user goes there, needs to look at the ID from the URL and then needs to get a list of all the products and then filter out the exact product that we need. So for this, what we can do is we can either create a new resource here to just get that product, or we can be smart and we can just use computed to do the same thing. So here I can just use a product here, and I'm going to say that this will be a computed signal, but what will this be based off is the question. Well, if we look at the product service, we can see that this is a HTTP resource, and an HTTP resource has signals. It has a signal for value. It has a signal for loading. It also has a signal for error. And if you want to get better at signals, hey, shameless plug, look at the book and you get all the knowledge that you need for the signals. Well, let's continue. So here we have the product right here. So what I can do here is, first we can get the ID. So here I can say const ID equals, and then we can just say route.snapshot.parammap.get ID. Then we go ahead and we say we want products as well. So here we say const products equals, and here we can say the product service is required. So here we can say products equals, or products service equals inject. So we inject the products class here coming from services products, right? Then we say this dot products service dot products, which is a resource dot value. And here we get the array, right? Now, if we don't have the ID in the URL, which we should always have, and we don't have the products ready, we just would say the product is null. Otherwise, we essentially get the product here. So what we could do here is that we can say if we don't have the ID or we don't have the products, then we return null. Otherwise, we basically loop over all the products array. We find the one that matches the ID in the URL and we assign that as a signal of product here. Now I can save this, and now I can go to the HTML and actually write the code here. So here I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to say atlet equals to product item equals, and then I can say product, right? Now I can go ahead and say if we have product item available, then I want to render it. So I'm going to use the app product card component, and I'm going to pass the product as product just like this. And now I also have to go to the component here, and I also want to import the product card here. But not only that, I also want to import the loading indicator, so we can show that in the else one. So here I can say app loading indicator, and again this should not be product, this should be product item. Now one thing that you can do is that you can improve this template to also show errors, loading, in the cases where the product is not found, etc. I've kept it simple just for the sake of understanding. I'm going to quickly save this, go back to the TypeScript file, save that as well. And I don't understand why the app loading indicator is not being okay. Now it does. Good. So now if I go back to my terminal, everything is green. If I now go back to my browser, you can see already that we are showing the particular product. If I change the ID to 2, we have a different product. If I go to 3, we have a different product, so on and so forth. Now, one thing that I also want to do is in the product list component, if you look at this, we have a product card, which is right here. I want to actually wrap this up into an anchor tag so I can also go to the particular product when I click it. So I'm going to actually put it like this. And now I can here say router link, and then I can just pass it like this. Now I also want to go to the list components TypeScript file and import the router link directive here. Router link, just like this. Save this guy. And now I can go to my browser, go to the list page, just like this. And now if I click any of those, you can see that I go to the particular page. Now I may not want to actually put the anchor tag there, maybe a click handler, because if I try to click add to cart, I think it's gonna still go to the route, which I don't really want, as you can see. So maybe we can go here and we can essentially import the router service. So we can say inject router, and now I can go here and say go to product details, and this essentially would look like this. So we essentially pass it like this. Now I go to my HTML here, and instead of this anchor tag, I could actually just use this product component and put this on the list level to click. And here we can say go to product details, and this requires the product itself, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there we go. Now I can save this, and now I can also remove the router link because we are not really using this, and I can also remove the reference from here. Good. Oh, we have some issues here. No provider for router, and that is because we are importing router from Express. I don't know why I would do that at all. So let's do router from Angular router. Let's save this. Good. Now we can try the same thing. So if I try to go and click add to cart, it doesn't. Oh, it actually takes me to the route, and that is probably because we are not really doing stop propagation in the add to cart here. Yeah. So in here, the button essentially passes product item in the product cart component. So here I'm also gonna pass the event, and let's quickly go to product cart here. We're gonna also say event here, which is gonna be mouse event, and here I can say event dot stop propagation. There we go. Let's quickly save this file. Let's quickly save this file as well. And then we refresh, we go here, try add to cart, and it still takes us there. Why? Oh, that is because we are not really using immediate propagation. Let's save this. And then I refresh, go down, click. Wait, this is still does the same thing. Why is it so? If I look at here, this is go to product details, which essentially takes us to the navigation. I'm going to save these files just to make sure I'm not having a caching issue. And it means that something is wrong. So I should probably open my debugger here, and I can see in the console we have an error. So when we try to pass the event, it doesn't really work because I think the HTML file is still not saved. So if I go here, I can see click here. I'm passing the event. If I save this now, and if I try to click this again, now I can see the event right here, which is product, and this is the pointer event. If I hit play, it now shows the alert and basically works as it should. So might be something with the cached HTML. Yeah, it works. Well, now that we have fixed that, I can essentially click outside of the add to cart, and you can see it navigates me to the right product, which is what we wanted. But if I right click here and go to view page source, you can see that we have the component being rendered from the server. So we have ultra headphones, noise cancelling headphones, etc, etc. So everything comes from the server. If I right click here, go to inspect, go to network tab, refresh, and keep this fetch XHR here, you're going to see that we don't really make any HTTP calls to the data.json, and that is because everything is server side rendered. And to prove that, I can essentially go to the routes server or app.routes.server.ts, and here you can see that we have this server here. What if I created a new route here, for example, and I said that, okay, the product's ID is just going to be client side rendered. So I can quickly go ahead and say path, and here I can say products/ID, and here I'm going to say that the render mode for this one is going to be render mode.client. If I just do this and go back to my browser, you can see immediately that we have this products.json here. If I refresh now, you can see that we make this call, and then everything essentially comes on the client side. If I right click here, go to view page source, now you will see that this time only app root element is present in the body compared to what we had before, which was actually rendered content. So this is the change that we have now. But having said that, how do we pre-render all of this? So let's get to the point. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to use the pre-render mode. So let's do it pre-render, and then I can go here and then I can say get pre-render parameters. But even before doing so, what happens if I just do it now? If I go to the browser now, you can see that everything works, but we don't see the call or the network call on the client side because this is coming from the server. And if I right click and look at the view page source, you can see the rendered content now. So we have the title right here, we have the add to cart button, everything is rendered. In the client side case, we only got app root. In this case, which I'm not really saying if it's SSR or pre-render, we essentially get the rendered content. Well, the reality is that this is SSR. Why? Why? Because we haven't even talked about how can we pre-render this on the build time. So this doesn't really work as pre-render, and by default, if you go to the documentation of getPrerenderParameters, you're gonna find that in the fallback strategies, it says that when you don't provide a fallback strategy for pre-rendering, it would say server as a fallback by default. Now the fun part is that this works in development, but if I actually go and start running ng-build, Angular has a really nice thing for me right there, and it's gonna start crying that, hey, you have something and you're saying that it should be pre-rendered, but you don't have getPrerenderParameters that essentially should support that. And this is a dynamic route. So you can see here that it said this route uses pre-rendering, includes parameters, but we are not really using that function. So we should probably start using that function, right? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna actually go and say getPrerenderParameters right here. This is gonna be an async function, and then I want to do a couple of things, but I'm gonna just remove all of this first. So first we need to get the service, because we are going to still use the same resource to do the same job here. So we're gonna say const products service equals inject, because getPrerenderParameters can use the inject function. So I can actually go ahead and import my products service just like this, and then I can essentially look at the value or look at the array and then generate the pre-rendering parameters. Ideally, what should happen is that we should return something like this. It should be an array, and each item in the array should have the ID attribute, which should contain the ID of each product. So we go here and we say const products equals, and here we can say product service dot products dot value. So we get the products right here. We say if we don't have any products, then we return nothing. We essentially return an array. Otherwise, we go ahead and we do this. We essentially say, okay, if we get the products, we loop over them, and we essentially map it to an object so that we have an object of IDs. So this would essentially turn something into, hey, we have an ID 1, an ID 2, etc. So this would result in exactly what we had before. When we do this now, it's going to be fine. If I run ng-build, let's see what happens. Great. Now that we have the build generated, I'm going to actually go ahead and run node here dist, and then the folder name, whatever it may be for you, and then server, and then server.mjs. When we run this, we can go to our browser, and instead of 4200, we run it on 4000. If I do this now, you can see that this works. We don't have any network call at the moment. If I right click it, view page source, you can see that this comes rendered from the server. So you can see if I go down here, you can see that we have the title, the price, everything is here. So this is coming from the server. Now the question is, was it pre-rendered or is it server-side rendering? And that is the big question. Well, we have two ways to figure that out. One, we define a fallback to client side, so it doesn't do server-side rendering as a fallback. And the second one is that we put a console log here as good developers. So we go here and first we say fallback here, and then we say pre-rendering fallback dot client. So it doesn't do server-side rendering at all. And the second thing is that I want to look at what is the value of products. So here we can say console.log, and here I can say pre-rendering products and then just products. If I save this now, I want to run the last command that I did, but with the build. So here I'm going to run this thing, but before that I'm going to run ng-build. So I can put ng-build and. Now it's going to build it, and we should be seeing this console log as we have put it right here. If I scroll up, you can see pre-rendering products undefined. That is what I wanted to show you. So at the pre-rendering time, it does not get the products, which means it's not generating it on the build time. And the second proof of that is if I go here now and refresh, you can see the products JSON. So we are essentially having the fallback running as client side. So how do we generate this on the server? That is the big question. If I look at the view page source, you're going to see that we only get this app-root element. So this is not rendered or pre-rendered, and we have opted to not server-side rendering it as well. Now, why does this happen? Because we are using a resources value, and unlike the situations in the component where we can put a computed, an effect, the resource automatically re-renders the template when it gets a value, this pre-render params happens only one time. And that one time when it tries to get the resource, it doesn't find it because the network call might be in progress, it might not have the data, whatever could be the reason. But if this thing cannot provide synchronously the value for the later mapping or for the later process, we won't have anything pre-rendered, and that is a big no-no for us. Now that means we can't really use the resource here in the pre-rendering case. What we can do is that we can do it the old school way, and we already have the async function here, so why don't we just make an HTTP call, get the data back, and then use it like we used to do 5 years ago. So we go ahead here in the product service, and in here we create a new function. So here we can say get products for pre-rendering. And in here, what I want to use is the HTTP resource. So here I'm going to quickly go ahead and say HTTP equals inject, and here I can say HTTP client. Then what I need to use here is we can essentially simply say const products equals, and here I'm going to use something from RxJS to convert this observable stream from HTTP to promise. So here I can say first value from, and then I can make the HTTP call. So here I can say this dot HTTP dot get, and I'm going to say this is going to return a products array for me from this particular JSON. So we have the value here, right? Then I can essentially put that behind and await. So we get the value here. So we have the products array right here. And that means this function also has to be async. And then what I need to do here is just return the products, but I could essentially just return the IDs as well. So here I can just say, hey, I'm just going to loop over them and then map over the IDs. So this actually gets the IDs directly. Then I can go to my route server where I was using the getPrerenderParameters parameters. And instead of using this, I could just say, hey, I'm going to use product ID. So instead of having all of this, I could essentially just go ahead and say return await. And here I can say products service dot get products for pre-rendering, and that's pretty much it. This would automatically give me back the IDs and I can use that. And just to break this down into multiple steps, I can just say const product IDs equals, so we can also have the console log as well, and then we just do return product IDs. So let's quickly save this now, and I'm going to also put a console log here, so I can say product IDs, and now I can run the command again. So I can quickly go here and run this again. All right, so you can see that the build is done. If I go up now, you can see that we have first this product IDs array, right? So that's the first thing. Second, you also see this app initialized. Since we had 5 different products, it essentially went ahead and for each product, it rendered the page, which in turn also gives us this log app initialized, because I think we have put that inside the app component, which is right here. So for every product, it essentially ran the Angular code or Angular compiler to generate the page for us. And now that is pre-rendered. So again, in our routes, we have the fallback set to client, which means that if the pre-rendering doesn't work, we don't have SSR, we are running client-side rendering. So now if I go to my browser and if I refresh now, you can see that this works out of the box. We don't have a network call going, which means that this is not client-side rendered. And if I right click this, go to view page source, you can see that this guy is essentially pre-rendered. So we have the generated HTML right here. And another thing that hints is that there is no app initialized log here anymore, because we only got that when we were building. And that is the whole point of it. If you have content that doesn't really change, then you can just pre-render them. Even if the route depends on a parameter which is dynamic, you can run them at build time. And when you have updates, you can just rebuild the project, deploy it again, and everybody gets the updated content. And that was it for this particular video. Now we have routes that are rendered, or so to say pre-rendered, and we are good to go. We are good to deploy them as well. And I hope you found this video useful. You learned a lot. Let me know in the comments if you found something new, interesting, if you liked the style of the video, or if you would change something, maybe, talk a bit faster, slower, whatever that is, write in the comments as well. And as I mentioned before, if you really want to take your Angular game to the next level, you have to try my new book, which is Mastering Angular Signals, which is available on Amazon for Kindle and paperback both. Having said that, if you need any help with Angular projects or if you need consultancies, reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll help you out happily. With that said, as always, happy coding. I'm going to see you next time.